This happened 28 years ago when I was still a truckie. It was a job that I enjoyed, and I had the licenses to entitle me to drive anything short of a road train. The pay was pretty good, leaving me with a lot of money for my few hobbies. And of course, I got to see a bloody huge amount of the country. I've seen more of it than anybody I know, except maybe mates of mine who became diggers. And plus, I got to take my best mate Spot, my cattle dog, with me everywhere. All in all, it was a pretty solid gig, even if the hours were extreme at times. Most jobs are essentially the same thing in a different spot, just delivering supplies. Load up the truck with a bunch of crates and boxes filled with food, deliver it to a corner store in the middle of nowhere, sleep in the cab as needed. My rig had a compartment to sleep in, pretty handy. Return home and then rest. Load the truck up with kegs of piss, deliver it to a pub in a mining town 300 kilometers west of anything. As I said though, I found it to be satisfying. I was left alone with Spot, the music of my choice, and my own thoughts. Anyway, I don't feel as though it's a clever decision to say exactly where this happened, but it was in the rural Queensland. It was a pretty small local mining town where the mine had closed down some years ago. It sounds pretty specific, but there are a number of these places all over Australia just like this. I left Darwin 3 days beforehand on my way back from Brisbane, where I live and I'm based out of. I had to make a stop on the way to this town. I didn't know how many people lived there, but it must have only been a few. I was being paid to bring in supplies for the only 3 commercial ventures in the entire town: the local store, the petrol station, and the pub. To give you an idea of how exactly small this town was, once I dropped off the food, household essentials, stuff like toothpaste and toilet paper, medication and beer, the only thing the town would need for the next 6 months would be a fuel delivery. In a way, I felt like I was making a delivery to Antarctica, or the space station, you know? Like if I was late, it would be really bad. These people were relying on the stuff in my truck. Maybe I was just getting big-headed though. By the time I arrived, it was around 11 o'clock at night. I was a couple of hours late. I had meant to arrive at 7, as my boss had booked a hotel room for me. I slowed down, pulled over to the side of the road, and I turned the truck off. There were no lights on in anybody's house, at least none that I could see. And in a town like this, there were no streetlights either. Or if there were, they weren't on. It was totally dark outside, save for the dim light of the moon. I looked at Spot on the seat to my left as he sat up. It looked like I was going to be sleeping in the truck tonight. "Hey, pretty spooky, right boy?" He cocked his head and he made a whiny noise at me. Yeah, time for bed, I think." As I grabbed my torch, my lighter, and my winnies, I hopped out of the truck with Spot excitedly following. It was good to be able to stretch my legs and get some fresh air, even if it was stinking hot. 11 o'clock at night and it must have been in the mid-30s, around 90 to 95 Fahrenheit. Downright freaking ridiculous. I closed the cabin door behind me and I lit up a smoke, looking up at the stars, unhindered and unobscured by any light pollution. It can be hard to appreciate just how beautiful the night sky is, if you've never had the chance to see it in its fullest, unobscured form. After the dog came back from doing his business on the opposite side of the road, I finished my smoke, and I decided to do a once-over on the truck, making sure that none of the tires are flat, that the rear door is still secure, and that kind of thing. I had no reason to suspect that there'd be anything wrong with my truck, but I found it reassuring to know that the cargo was still safe. It would be my ass on the line after all if something happened. I clicked the light on and I suddenly felt blinded by how bright it was. After a moment though, my eyes adjusted, and I opened the sleeper cabin and I lifted Spot up into it, and I turned its light on. He could run amok tomorrow when we unloaded the cargo, something that he would appreciate. But now, it was time to sleep, not play. As I walked down the side of the truck checking each tire, I could feel him watching me, with his head poking around the corner, almost like he was nagging me to hurry up. I got to the back doors of the truck, and grabbed the handle and I shook it vigorously, and checking the locks too. Still secure. I walked to the left side of the truck and started checking the tires there, when suddenly I heard a huge bang, like something had hit the other side of the trailer hard. What the hell? I whispered to myself, frozen in place. Spot started to bark aggressively. I put the light in my belt as I ran up to the cabin of the truck. The passenger door was still luckily unlocked, and I grabbed my rifle from behind the seat. Gun laws were a bit more lax in Australia back then. Cocking it, I walked around the front of the truck, ready for whatever sight might greet me. Probably a feral pig or maybe a dingo. With the rifle against my shoulder ready to shoot, I stepped around to the side the noise had come from, and was greeted by the dimly lit sight of an empty road. It was simultaneously reassuring and unsettling. The Spot was still barking like mad, but there was no obvious cause to the noise. "Hey, what'd you see, boy?" Spot and I made eye contact, and he looked as though he was concerned. Maybe I was just projecting how I felt. I lowered the rifle and I grabbed the torch off my belt, shining it around, looking for any possible source of the noise. After a while, I decided to lock the cabin of my truck and get into the sleeping compartment. And now, I'm a little prone to anxiety, and part of why I enjoy being a truckie. I'm alone for the better part of each day, so it took me a while to calm down after that. Hell, the noise could have just been parts of the trailer expanding in the heat. And that's what makes houses creak, right? Maybe this was the equivalent. I threw my clothes to the floor and I laid down on the bed with Spot at my side. The last thing I heard before falling asleep was his snoring. When I woke up, it was still dark outside, and it was cold as shit. I remember that. I turned on the reading light and I could see that Spot was growling quietly at the door, with his ears back. Shh. I nudged him with my foot, wondering what he might be growling at, and he stopped for a moment and then continued. For the moment that he was quiet though, I swear to whatever powers there may be, I heard someone whispering outside. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard a mentally disturbed person angrily whispering to themselves, but that is exactly what it sounded like. To say it was unsettling would be fairly accurate. Why the hell would somebody be outside their house, let alone next to my truck in the middle of the night? I checked my watch. 3:15 a.m. I put on some shorts, I grabbed my rifle and I turned on the torch, and I grabbed the handle of the door. "Who's there?" Total silence. "I heard you talking to yourself. Who's there?" Silence. But then I swear that I heard somebody laugh. I threw open the door and I jumped down, with Spot right behind me, barking his head off once again. I shone the torch around looking for whoever was out there, but I couldn't find any source of the noise. As I looked to my right though, I realized that the trailer was missing. What the hell? How could the trailer be gone? There is no way that anybody out here could have disconnected it, let alone move it. And even if they had, how could they have done that without Spot losing his mind, or me hearing it? I walked over to the connector where the trailer should have been attached to the rig, and I looked at it. The metal was mangled, and the cables had all been torn apart. I shone the torch in every direction, but the trailer was quite obviously gone. At that moment, I had no idea what to think or say. This was absolutely absurd. I would have been less shocked if it were snowing. Spot had stopped barking now, and was standing as close to me as he possibly could, without actually being surgically attached. I turned around and I thought about what to do. How would I explain this to my boss? Or to the publican, the shopkeeper, the petrol station manager, or even the police? I mean, this had to be considered theft. If somebody had taken the trailer and they had damaged the rig too. I took a deep breath and I briefly considered that maybe I was having an exceptionally vivid dream. I grabbed my cigarettes out of the cabin and I lit one up. I gave up on trying to figure out what could have possibly caused the trailer to outright disappear. And I decided that I would use the phone at the pub to call my boss and explain what had happened. There would be an investigation and I doubt they would find the trailer. And it's obvious that I didn't take it anywhere. As I lit up the cigarette, I looked to my right. The moon sat on a throne of clouds atop the hill. It was an impressive sight. As I mentioned earlier, this job paid well, so it funded the few hobbies I had quite generously. I decided that I would take some photos of the damage to the rig in the morning, but I thought that I would take a photo of the moon. As I walked to the cab, I unlocked it and I grabbed my camera bag. I felt uneasy. Probably just my anxiety playing up again. I unzipped it and I turned it on, and I intended to take a photo of the moon as it sat there atop the hill. But instead I was presented with an eerie scene that I'll never forget. As I turned back towards the moon on the hill, a glowing orb, I guess of blue or green light, was in front of me. Not exactly in front of me, several hundred meters down the road, and it was moving in bizarre patterns. As if the idea of a glowing orb in the middle of the night isn't weird enough by itself. I got one photo of it, but it disappeared shortly after I pressed the button to take the picture. I have never been able to explain it, and I suspect that I never will be able to. Maybe somebody here can help me out. Now at this stage, I'm feeling deeply uncomfortable being out here. There was a loud unexplained bang on the side of my trailer when I had arrived, and my trailer had seemingly disappeared into the void. And there are weird orbs of dancing light in the distance. I think any person who wasn't unsettled by this would arguably be otherwise disturbed. As I snubbed out my cigarette on the ground, I heard a spine-chilling scream from further up the road. I put everything except the rifle and torch back in the truck, and I chased after Spot, who was already flying towards the source of the noise, barking furiously. I can't say exactly what the scream sounded like. It's quite unlike any animal or person I've ever heard. Like a person had their voice hooked up to a flanger guitar pedal, if that gives you an idea. I can't see Spot anymore, but I can hear him up ahead. I'm running as fast as I possibly can, which, as a truck driver who smokes, is hardly fast enough to win an award. I hear that exact same scream again, as if it were a recording of the first playing back, and suddenly, Spot stops barking. Spot! Spot! God damn it, where are you? I would be beside myself if he were hurt. I pushed myself to run even harder to where I'd last heard him make any noise, and to my relief, I found him. But he was acting strangely. He just stood there, unreactive and oblivious to my presence. I shone the torch in the direction that he was facing, but there was just grass and shrubs. Spot! I tried to grab his attention, but he remained unmoved. It wasn't until I petted him on the head that he reacted, and even then it was with some delay. Let's get back to the truck. Come on, mate. As I jogged back to the truck with a dog by my side, someone's house that I hadn't seen earlier lit up from the inside. A man came to the front door and started shouting at me. Oi, come here, mate. It's not safe out there. I didn't need any further explanation at this stage. Alright, mate, give me a moment. I need to lock up my truck. Look, mate, I'm telling you now, don't bother. Come up here, bring your dog too. Alright. Despite my social anxiety, I felt reassured that there was somebody else out there. This was all too weird. By the time I made it to the front door, I did feel somewhat better about the situation. He took a step back and he motioned me through. "You want a cup of coffee?" he asked me. Sure, yeah." I stammered. "Who are you?" "The name's Wayne. And you?" "Wayne, right. I'm Dave. Did you hear or see anything weird out there?" "Yeah, mate, I sure freaking did." He laughed as he turned the kettle on. "I got no idea what it was, though. You can stay here until sunrise, and then you need to go back to your truck. I can't have anybody seeing you here." I raised an eyebrow. What a strange thing to say. "What do you mean you can't have anybody see me here?" "I mean exactly what I said. As soon as the sun comes up, you're going back to your truck." "Look, mate, I don't really want to be rude, but what the hell is going on in this town?" He looked at me, and I guess it was obvious that I was frustrated and scared, but he offered no more information. "Yeah, nah, you're not really being rude, but you need to understand. You have to stop asking about it. As I said, you can stay here for a bit, but then you're out of here. How many sugars?" "Just one." I didn't know what else to say, but I guess this guy thought that I'd be safe if I stayed here. He handed me my cup and he drank his own, and we made small talk after that. Things like, "So where are you from? What do you do?" Nothing of particular substance, but it helped a little in taking my mind off the strange experience that I just had. After a while, he went back to bed, and he told me that I could stay, but he insisted that I leave at first light, which is exactly what I ended up doing. I met with the publican at exactly 8:30 a.m., and when the pub opened and I explained that my trailer was gone and I needed to use the phone. To my surprise, he seemed as though he didn't think this was unusual. Anyway, I eventually spoke with my boss and the police, and there was an investigation, but they never found the trailer, and I quit my job once the investigation cleared me of any fault.